Zexithara moved through the quiet halls of the research ship with slow, careful steps. The metal floors made soft clicking sounds under their clawed feet. Their long blue fingers held a datapad that showed numbers and charts about war. For 3 years they had been working on the most important book about fighting that the galaxy had ever seen. The Velthari were proud of being smart about war. They did not fight with anger or fear like other species. They used their big brains to think about every move before they made it. Other species called them the best war teachers in all the known worlds. Zexithara was the best of the best among them. They stopped at a large window that looked out at the stars. Space was dark and peaceful here, but Zexithara knew that in many places different species were fighting each other. That was why their work was so important. Someone had to write down all the ways that different aliens fought wars. Their book already had 847 different species in it. Each one had their own way of fighting. The Korthak went crazy with anger and fought until they died. The Zephyrians worked together like bugs in a nest, thinking as one big mind. The Altarians made wonderful machines that could kill from very far away. Every species had something special about how they fought. Zexithara looked at their notes about humans. The file was thin compared to others. Humans were new to space, only about 50 years since they left their homeworld called Earth. Most species needed hundreds of years to learn how to fight in space. But humans seemed to learn fast. The notes said humans were okay soldiers. They did not give up easily, which was good. They could change their plans when things went wrong, which was also good. But they did not have the crazy anger of the Korthak. They did not work together like the Zephyrians. They did not make great weapons like the Altarians. They were just normal. A soft sound made Zexithara look up from their notes. Captain Vortek was walking toward them. The captain was old with scars on their face from many battles. "Scholar Zexithara," the captain said with respect, "I have new orders for you." Zexithara felt excited. Maybe they would get to see the Dramok war machines in action, or perhaps the Quillian space battles that happened in 3 dimensions at once. "There is a small fight happening near the edge of human space," Captain Vortek said. "Some pirates called Reviks are attacking a human colony world. The Galactic Council wants you to watch and write about it." Zexithara felt disappointed. A small human fight would not be very interesting. But they were a good scholar, so they would do their job. "How many ships?" Zexithara asked. "The Reviks have about 30 ships and maybe 2,000 fighters," the captain said. "The humans have 1 small defense force and whatever the colonists can fight with." That meant the humans would lose quickly. The Reviks were known for being mean and good at fighting. They had better weapons and more soldiers. "This would be over in a day, maybe 2. "We will arrive tomorrow," Captain Vortek said. "You can watch from a safe distance and record everything." That night, Zexithara read more about humans. They came from a world with lots of water and many different types of land. Hot places, cold places, wet places, dry places. This meant humans had to learn to live in many different ways. That might be why they were good at changing their plans. Humans also lived in small groups called families. Parents would die to protect their children. This was strange to Zexithara, whose species laid eggs and never saw their young. Maybe that was why humans did not give up easily in fights, but none of this seemed special. Many species protected their young. Many species could change their plans. Humans were just another normal race that would probably be forgotten in a few hundred years. The next morning, the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel near a yellow star. The human colony world was the 3rd planet from the sun. It was mostly blue and green like the human homeworld. Zexithara could see the colony had 3 small cities and many farms. Already, Ravek ships were moving around the planet like hungry animals. Their ships were dark and had sharp edges. Zexithara counted 32 ships, just like the captain had said. Some were big warships. Others were smaller but fast. The human defense was much smaller. Zexithara saw only 6 human ships. They were simple and square, built for work more than fighting. Around the planet were some defense stations, but they looked old and weak. "This will not take long," Zexithara said to themselves. They set up their recording equipment and started taking notes. The Reviks moved in a pattern that Zexithara recognized. It was called the Circle of Death. They would fly around the planet and attack different places until the defenders got tired and made mistakes. The humans seemed to know this too. Their ships did not try to chase the Reviks. Instead, they stayed close to the planet and protected the most important places. This was smart, but it would only work for a little while. Zexithara watched as the first attacks began. Ravik ships dove down toward the planet and fired their weapons. The human defense stations fired back. Some shots hit, some missed. It looked like every other small battle that Zexithara had seen, but something felt different. Zexithara could not say what it was yet. The human ships moved in ways that seemed normal, but when Zexithara looked closer, they were doing things that were just a little bit unusual. They took risks that most species would not take. They worked together in ways that seemed to happen without talking to each other. One human ship got badly damaged by 3 Ravik fighters. Most species would have run away to get fixed. But this human ship kept fighting. It destroyed 1 Ravik fighter, then another, then rammed into the 3rd one. Both ships exploded. Zexithara wrote notes about this. It could be bad training. Maybe the human pilot just made a mistake. But it felt like something else. As the day went on, more strange things happened. Human farmers left their fields and started fighting with old weapons and tools. They should have been scared and hidden, but instead they seemed angry. Human children helped by carrying messages and supplies to fighters. Even human doctors fought when Raviks got too close to hospitals. This was not normal. In most species, only trained soldiers fought in wars. Everyone else ran away or hid. But humans seemed to think that everyone should fight to protect their home. By evening, the Raviks had taken some parts of the planet, but not as much as they expected. They had also lost more ships than they planned. Zexithara could hear their angry radio messages. "These humans fight like they are crazy," one Ravik captain said. They should have given up by now. Zexithara looked at their notes. The humans were losing, just like anyone would expect. But they were losing much more slowly than they should, and they were making the Raviks pay a high price for every piece of land. Maybe humans were more interesting than Zexithara had thought. Tomorrow would bring more fighting, and maybe more answers about what made these strange aliens different from others. Zexithara went to sleep wondering if their thin file on humans might need to become much thicker. The morning brought more Ravik ships. Zexithara counted 12 new ones arriving from deep space. The pirates were getting serious about this attack. What should have been a quick raid was turning into a real battle. Zexithara watched through their instruments as the fighting started again. The human defenders looked tired from yesterday's battles. 2 of their 6 ships were badly damaged. Many of their defense stations were not working anymore. The smart move would be to surrender and hope the Raviks would not kill everyone. But the humans kept fighting. The Raviks tried a new plan. Instead of flying around the planet, they focused all their attacks on one city. They wanted to break through the defenses and land their soldiers on the ground. Once they had a foothold, they could spread out and take the whole planet. The human ships moved to protect that city just like the Raviks expected. But something strange happened. As the human ships got closer together, they started fighting better, not worse. Their shots were more accurate. Their movements were smoother. It was like they could read each other's minds. Zexithara had seen this before with the Zephyrians, but they had special brain connections that let them think as one. Humans did not have that. How were they doing it? One human ship captain gave orders that made no sense. "Maria, take your ship behind the 3rd moon. Wait for my signal." There was no 3rd moon around this planet, but somehow the other captain knew exactly what he meant. Her ship moved to a place that Zexithara would never have guessed, and it turned out to be the perfect spot to attack Ravik ships from behind. The battle got worse as the day went on. Ravik ships broke through the human defenses and started landing soldiers in the city. Zexithara expected the humans to panic, but instead they got more organized. Every human seemed to know exactly what to do. Children ran messages between adult fighters. Old people who could barely walk loaded weapons for younger people. Even pets seemed to help, with dogs finding hidden enemies and cats watching for danger. The Raviks took the city's power station. The humans had prepared for this. They had backup power ready to turn on. The Raviks took the water treatment plant. The humans had stored water in hidden places. Every time the Raviks thought they had won something important, the humans had already planned for it. But the worst thing happened at noon. Ravik soldiers found the city hospital and took it over. They put their own fighters inside and used the sick and hurt humans as shields. They knew that humans cared about their wounded people and would not attack the hospital. Zexithara expected the human fighters to get stuck. They could not attack the hospital, but they could not let the Raviks keep it either. In Zexithara's experience, this was when most species would start arguing about what to do. Different groups would want different plans, Everything would fall apart. But that is not what happened. Instead, the humans got quiet. Their radio chatter, which had been constant all day, almost stopped. When they did talk, their voices sounded different, colder, harder. Sergeant Maria Santos was leading a group of 20 human soldiers near the hospital. Her orders from command were to wait and watch, but not to attack. The risk to the patients was too high. Zexathera watched through a small spy drone as Sergeant Santos looked at the hospital building. Her face was calm, but her eyes were strange. They reminded Zexathera of a predator deciding when to strike. "Command, this is Santos," she said into her radio. "I see a way." "Negative, Santos. Too dangerous. Wait for backup." "No time," Santos said. "They're moving patients to the upper floors. They're going to start dropping them out windows." Zexathera's instruments showed that Santos was right. The Ravix were getting frustrated and were about to start killing patients to make the humans attack. Santos turned to her soldiers. "Anyone who wants to leave can go now. This is going to be bad." No one left. What happened next was like nothing Zexathera had ever seen. The 20 human soldiers split into 4 groups and attacked the hospital from 4 directions at the same time. But they did not attack like soldiers. They attacked like something else. One group went through the front door, shooting and throwing explosives. But they were not trying to take the hospital. They were trying to make noise and get attention. All the Ravex focused on them. The second group climbed up the outside of the building like animals. They got to the 3rd floor and started pulling patients out through windows. They had ropes and were lowering the hurt people to safety. The 3rd group went through underground tunnels that connected to the hospital basement. They moved through the building from bottom to top, being very quiet and quick. The 4th group, led by Santos herself, went to the hospital's power room and shut off all the lights. Then they used special equipment to see in the dark, but the Ravex could not. The whole attack took 18 minutes. When it was over, 67 patients were safe. All the Ravex soldiers in the hospital were dead or captured. And the humans had only lost 3 fighters. But that was not the amazing part. The amazing part was watching how they did it. Every human seemed to know what every other human was thinking. They moved together like they were parts of one big machine. When one soldier got hurt, another one was already there to help. When one group needed a distraction, another group made one without being asked. Santos herself did things that should have been impossible. She fought 5 Ravex soldiers at the same time and won. She carried a wounded patient down 4 flights of stairs while still shooting at enemies. She made decisions in seconds that most commanders would need hours to think about. After the hospital was free, Zexathera tried to understand what they had seen. They looked at the recordings over and over. The human attack had been perfect in every way. Too perfect, no species could coordinate that well without special training or natural abilities. But humans were just humans. They were not telepathic like the Zephyrians. They were not super strong like the Korthak. They did not have great technology like the Altarians. How had they done it? Zexathera sent a message to the Human Command Center, asking to speak with Sergeant Santos. The reply came back quickly. Santos was already back out fighting. She had not even stopped to rest. That evening, the Ravix tried a different approach. Instead of attacking military targets, they started bombing civilian areas. Schools, homes, farms. They wanted to make the humans so scared that they would give up. This turned out to be a mistake. The change in the humans was immediate and frightening. Their careful plans became aggressive attacks. Their defensive positions became launching points for raids deep into Ravix-controlled areas. Every human on the planet seemed to become a soldier overnight. Zexathera watched a farmer named John Chen take apart a mining machine and turn it into a weapon in 20 minutes. The weapon destroyed 3 Ravix tanks. Chen had never been a soldier, but he fought like he had been training his whole life. A schoolteacher named Sarah Williams led a group of parents in an attack that captured a Ravix command post. She used tactics that Zexathera had never seen before, tactics that seemed to be invented on the spot, but worked perfectly. By the end of the second day, the Ravix had lost more ships and soldiers than they had planned to lose in the whole attack. They were getting desperate and angry. Their radio messages were full of cursing and threats, but the humans seemed to be getting stronger. Every attack made them more dangerous. Every loss made them more determined. Zexathera realized that their notes about humans were completely wrong. These were not just okay soldiers who did not give up easily. These were something much more dangerous, something that Zexathera did not understand yet but was starting to fear. The third day changed everything. Zexathera woke up to the sound of alarms on their research ship. Captain Vortex's voice came through the speakers, urgent and worried. More Ravek ships approaching. This is now a full invasion force. Zexathera rushed to their instruments. 30 more Ravek ships were coming out of faster-than-light travel. The pirates had called for help from their main fleet. What started as a simple raid was now a real war. The humans were in serious trouble. They had fought bravely for 2 days, but they were running out of ships, weapons, and people. Against this many Raveks, they should surrender in hours. But when Zexathera listened to human radio communications, they did not hear fear or talk of giving up. Instead, they heard something that made their skin crawl. The humans sounded happy. Finally, said Commander Chen, the leader of the human defense. We were getting bored. This made no sense. The Raveks now had more than 60 ships around the planet. They had thousands of soldiers on the ground. They had better weapons and more supplies. The humans should be terrified, but they were not. Instead, something was happening that Zexathera had never seen before in all their years of studying war. The humans were changing, not just their tactics or their plans. They were changing as people. Zexathera watched through their spy drones as human civilians did impossible things. A grandmother named Mary Kim fought off 6 Ravek soldiers with a kitchen knife and won. A teenage boy named David Park hacked into Ravek computer systems and turned their own weapons against them. A group of human children, none older than 12, set up traps that destroyed 2 Ravek vehicles. But the strangest thing was how they worked together. Humans who had never met before fought side by side like they had trained together for years. They seemed to know what each other needed before anyone asked. They shared weapons, food, and medicine without being told to. It was like the whole human species was becoming one giant fighting machine. The Raveks noticed this too. Their communications were getting more and more worried. These humans are not normal, one Ravek commander said. They fight like demons. Maybe we should leave, another one replied. This planet is not worth losing half our fleet. But the Ravek leader, a cruel commander named Scarth, refused to retreat. He had his reputation to think about. If word got out that humans had scared off the mighty Ravek fleet, other species might start fighting back too. So Scarth decided to end the war quickly and brutally. He ordered his ships to start bombing the planet from space. Not just military targets this time. Everything. Cities, farms, forests, even the oceans. He would turn the whole planet into a wasteland. The bombing started at noon. Huge explosions erupted all over the planet as Ravek weapons fired from space. Zexathera expected the humans to run and hide in underground shelters. Instead, they attacked. Human ships that had been hiding came out of nowhere. They had been damaged and outnumbered, but somehow they were still fighting. More than that, they were winning. Zexathera watched in amazement as a human ship with half its weapons destroyed fought 3 Ravek ships at once. The human pilot flew like someone who was not afraid to die. Every move was perfect. Every shot hit its target. When the human ship finally exploded, it took all 3 Ravek ships with it. On the ground, humans did things that should have been impossible. They ran through bombing zones to save wounded people. They attacked Ravek positions that were 10 times bigger than their own forces. They kept fighting even when they were hurt so badly that they could barely stand. But the moment that changed everything came when the Raveks bombed a human school. The school had been empty. All the children had been moved to safe places days ago. But it was still a school. It was still a place where human children learned and played and grew up. When the school exploded in a ball of fire and smoke, every human on the planet felt it. Zexathera could see it in their faces through the spy drones. Something broke inside them, something that had been holding them back. The change was immediate and terrifying. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen had been fighting carefully for 3 days, trying to save as many human lives as possible. But when she saw the school burning, her whole face changed. Her eyes became cold and hard like pieces of ice. All units, she said into her radio. Her voice was so calm it was frightening. No more defensive positions. We attack now. We attack everything. What happened next was like watching a natural disaster made of humans. Chen led her remaining soldiers in an attack on the main Ravek landing site. They were outnumbered 20-1. Military science said they should have been destroyed in minutes. Instead, they won. Zexathera watched the battle recordings over and over, trying to understand what they were seeing. The humans moved like water flowing around rocks. When Ravek soldiers shot at them, they were not there anymore. When Raveks tried to surround them, the humans split up and attacked from directions that should have been impossible. Chen herself was the most frightening of all. She fought with guns, knives, her bare hands, and pieces of broken metal. She seemed to be everywhere at once. When a Ravek soldier shot her in the leg, she kept fighting. When another one hit her with a club, she used the club to beat 3 more Raveks. But it was not just Chen. Every human was fighting the same way. A human medic named Dr. Wright carried wounded soldiers to safety while fighting off Ravek attackers with one hand. A farmer named Rodriguez used his knowledge of the land to lead Raveks into traps that killed dozens of them. An engineer named Patel turned broken machines into weapons that worked better than anything the Raveks had. The humans were not just winning battles. They were destroying everything in their path. In space, the remaining human ships started attacking in ways that made no sense but somehow worked. They rammed into Ravek ships even though it meant certain death. They used their ships as giant bombs, flying them into the middle of Ravek formations and exploding them. They fought until their ships were falling apart, then kept fighting with whatever pieces were left. Zexathara realized they were watching something that had never been written about in any military book. The humans were not fighting like soldiers anymore. They were not even fighting like animals. They were fighting like forces of nature, like earthquakes or storms or forest fires. By the end of the 3rd day, the Raveks had lost 40 ships and most of their ground forces. Commander Scarth was screaming orders at his remaining captains, but half of them were not answering. Some had been destroyed. Others had simply run away. The humans had lost almost everything too. Most of their ships were gone. Their cities were in ruins. Thousands of their people were dead or wounded, but they were still fighting, and they were still winning. Zexathara tried to sleep that night but could not. They kept thinking about what they had seen. Humans doing impossible things, fighting when they should have been dead, winning when they should have lost. Tomorrow would bring the final battle. Zexathara was afraid to watch it but could not look away. They had come here to study human warfare and write a few pages for their book. Instead, they were watching something that would change how the galaxy thought about war forever. Something that would change how the galaxy thought about humans forever. The 4th day brought hell to the human colony world. Zexathara watched from their ship as Commander Scarth made his final desperate move. The Ravek leader had lost more than half his fleet to humans who should have been crushed on the 1st day. His reputation was destroyed. His commanders were questioning his orders. Some of his ships had already deserted and fled to deep space. But Scarth had one card left to play. If he could not have the planet, he would make sure the humans could not have it either. At dawn, Ravek ships surrounded the last human city where most of the survivors had gathered. Inside were about 10,000 humans, including many children, elderly people, and wounded soldiers. The city's defenses were almost gone. Only a few human fighters were left, and they had almost no weapons or supplies. Scarth sent a message to the human defenders. Surrender now, or we will kill everyone. You have 1 hour to decide. Zexathara expected the humans to give up. They had fought bravely, but there was no point in everyone dying. Any reasonable species would surrender to save the innocent people. The human response came back in 30 seconds. Go to hell. It was signed by Commander Chen, who was now in charge of all human forces on the planet. Scarth's answer was to begin bombing the city. But not quick bombing to destroy it fast. Slow bombing, building by building, to make the humans watch their home die piece by piece. He wanted them to suffer before they died. The first bombs hit the edge of the city at 8 a.m. Humans ran from the explosions, carrying children and helping wounded people move to safer areas. But there were no safe areas anymore. The whole city was a target. That was when Zexathara saw something that would give them nightmares for the rest of their life. At 8:15 a.m., a Ravek bomb hit the human school in the center of the city. The school had been turned into a medical center for wounded children. About 50 young humans were inside, along with doctors and nurses taking care of them. The bomb hit directly on the building. When the smoke cleared, the school was gone. So were the children. The change in the humans was instant and absolute. Zexathara had thought they understood human fury after 3 days of watching them fight. They had been wrong. What they had seen before was just humans being serious about war. This was humans becoming something else entirely. Every human in the city felt the death of those children like a physical blow. Zexathera could see it on their faces through the spy drones. Pain, rage, and something deeper that had no name in any language. Commander Chen stood in the rubble where the school had been. Her face was covered in dust and blood from the explosion. She knelt down and picked up a small toy that had belonged to one of the children. For a long moment, she just stared at it. When she stood up and turned to face her soldiers, Zexathera barely recognized her as the same person. Her eyes were like black holes. Her voice was so quiet that everyone had to lean in to hear her. "No prisoners," she said. "No mercy. No retreat. They want to kill our children, so we kill them all. Every last one." The humans who heard her did not cheer or shout. They just nodded. They understood. What happened next was not a battle. It was an extermination. The humans stopped defending the city and started hunting. Small groups of fighters slipped out through holes in the Ravek lines. They moved through the ruins like ghosts, killing every Ravek they found. They used knives, clubs, their bare hands, pieces of broken glass. Anything that could hurt or kill. But the worst part was how they fought. They had gone beyond caring about their own lives. A human soldier would walk straight into enemy fire to get close enough to kill a Ravek with a knife. A human engineer would blow up a building with themselves inside just to take out a few enemy fighters. They fought like they were already dead and just wanted to take as many enemies with them as possible. Dr. James Wright had spent 3 days saving lives. He was a healer, trained to help people, not hurt them. But when the children died, something broke in him too. Zexathera watched through a drone as Wright walked into a Ravek command post with a bomb strapped to his chest. "This is for the kids," he said, and pressed the trigger. The explosion killed 12 Ravek officers and Wright himself. But before he died, Wright had sent all the Ravek battle plans to the other human fighters. The information let them destroy 3 more Ravek positions that night. In space, the few remaining human ships stopped trying to survive and started trying to do as much damage as possible before they died. Captain Maria Santos flew her badly damaged ship straight into the middle of the Ravek fleet. Her ship's engines were failing, her weapons were almost out of power, and half her crew was dead. She used her ship as a missile. The explosion when Santos's ship hit the Ravek command vessel could be seen from the planet's surface. Both ships were destroyed instantly, along with 2 other Ravek ships that were too close to the blast. Before she died, Santos sent one last message to the planet. "Remember us. Make it count." On the ground, the surviving humans made it count. They stopped fighting like they wanted to win and started fighting like they wanted the enemy to suffer. They set traps that did not just kill Raveks, but killed them slowly and painfully. They ambushed Ravek patrols and left the bodies where other Raveks would find them. They turned the city into a maze of death that grew more dangerous every hour. The Raveks started to break. These were pirates and raiders who were used to easy victories against weak enemies. They had never faced anything like humans who had nothing left to lose. Ravek soldiers began refusing orders. Some tried to surrender, but the humans were not taking prisoners anymore. Others simply ran away from their positions. A few even turned their weapons on their own officers rather than face the humans again. Commander Scarth realized he was losing control of his forces. In desperation, he ordered all remaining ships to focus their fire on the city center. He would kill every human at once, even if it meant destroying his own soldiers who were fighting in the streets. The bombing was terrible. Explosions erupted throughout the city as dozens of Ravek ships fired everything they had. Buildings collapsed. Streets turned into craters, the air filled with smoke and fire. But somehow humans kept fighting. Zexathera watched in amazement as humans emerged from the rubble after each bombing run. They were burned, bleeding, and half dead, but they kept moving. They kept hunting. They kept killing. A human woman named Lisa Park had been a teacher before the war. Now she was the leader of a group of 50 fighters, most of them teenagers and old people. They had no real weapons, just tools and homemade explosives. But they moved through the burning city like angels of death. Park's group found a Ravek ammunition depot and decided to destroy it. The explosion would probably kill them all, but it would also destroy most of the remaining Ravek supplies. Without ammunition, the Ravek ships would have to leave or fight with empty guns. Park looked at her people. They were all volunteers. Everyone knew this was a one-way mission. "Anyone who wants to leave can go now," she said. Just like Sergeant Santos had said 3 days ago at the hospital. No one left. They attacked the depot at midnight. The battle was vicious and short. When it was over, the depot was a smoking crater and Park's entire group was dead. But so were 200 Ravek soldiers and most of their remaining supplies. By morning, Commander Scarth had only 12 ships left out of the 60 he had started with. His ground forces were almost gone. His remaining soldiers were terrified and demoralized. The humans had maybe 1,000 fighters left out of the millions who had lived on the planet. Their city was in ruins. Most of their people were dead, but they had won. Scarth tried one last desperate gamble. He gathered his remaining ships and prepared to ram them into the planet itself. If he could not defeat the humans, he would at least take them with him when he died. That was when the human reinforcements arrived. The human fleet came out of faster-than-light travel like a force of nature. Zexithera had been watching the final desperate moments of the battle when their sensors detected 37 ships approaching fast. At first, they thought more Raveks were coming to finish the job. But these ships were different. They were human vessels, bigger and more powerful than any the colony had possessed. The lead ship sent a message that echoed across all frequencies. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Colonial Defense Force. Any Ravek vessel that does not immediately surrender will be destroyed." Zexithara realized this must be Commander Chen's sister or relative. The voice was similar but harder and colder. This was someone who had heard about what happened to the children. Commander Scarth tried to negotiate. "We claim this world by right of conquest. Leave now or face the consequences." The human admiral's response was immediate. "You killed children. There will be no negotiation. There will be no mercy. You have 30 seconds to surrender." Scarth chose to fight. It was the last mistake he ever made. The human fleet attacked with a fury that made the colonists' fighting look gentle. These were professional soldiers who had trained their whole lives for war. But they were also humans who had seen the recordings of what the Raveks had done to their people. The battle in space lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it was over, every Ravek ship was either destroyed or captured. Scarth's flagship tried to escape, but 3 human ships chased it down and blew it apart. Zexithera watched all of this through their instruments, trying to understand what they were seeing. The human fleet had fought with perfect coordination and overwhelming force, but that was not what made it special. What made it special was why they fought. These humans had not come for territory or resources or glory. They had come for justice. They had come for revenge. They had come because their people had been hurt, and someone needed to pay for it. After the space battle ended, human ships landed on the planet to help the survivors. Zexithera asked permission to go down to the surface with them. They needed to see the aftermath with their own eyes. The city was a wasteland. Most buildings were destroyed or damaged. Bodies lay everywhere, human and Ravek alike. The air smelled of smoke and death. It looked like the end of the world, but the humans were already working to fix it. Zexithara watched as human soldiers, engineers, and medics spread out through the ruins. They searched for survivors. They put out fires. They began clearing debris. They worked with the same intensity they had shown in fighting, but now directed toward healing instead of destruction. Admiral Chen landed near what had been the school. Commander Chen was waiting for her there. The 2 women looked almost identical, but their expressions were different. The commander looked tired and empty, like someone who had given everything they had. The admiral looked angry, like someone who wanted to give more. They hugged each other without saying anything. Then they knelt together in the rubble where the children had died. "How many?" the admiral asked quietly. 53 kids, the commander answered, plus 16 adults who were taking care of them. The admiral nodded slowly. "We'll remember them all. Their names will be carved into the memorial on Earth." That evening, Zexithara was invited to a meeting with the human leaders. They met in a temporary shelter that had been set up in the ruins of the government building. Around the table sat Admiral Chen, Commander Chen, and the surviving leaders of the colony. "We know you've been watching," Admiral Chen said to Zexithara. "We know you're writing about what happened here. We want to make sure you understand what you saw." Zexithara activated their recording device. "Please tell me." Commander Chen spoke first. "We didn't fight because we wanted to win. We fought because we had to protect our people. When the Raveks started killing children, it stopped being about tactics or strategy. It became about right and wrong." A man named David Park, whose son had died in the school bombing, continued the explanation. "You other species, you fight for land or resources or power. We fight for each other. When you threaten our families, our children, our future, You wake up something in us that most of the galaxy has never seen. What is that something? Zexathara asked. Admiral Chen answered. Love, rage, protection, fury. They're all the same emotion, really. When someone you love is in danger, you become capable of things you never thought possible. Zexathara thought about all they had witnessed. But you lost so many people. Your city is destroyed. How can you call this a victory? The humans looked at each other. Commander Chen smiled sadly. Because our children will grow up free. Because other species will think twice before attacking human colonies. Because we proved that there are some lines you do not cross. Over the next week, Zexathara interviewed dozens of human survivors. They all told similar stories. They had fought not because they were great warriors, but because they were parents, siblings, friends, neighbors. They had fought because someone they cared about was in danger. A farmer named Rodriguez explained it simply. I'm not a soldier. I grow food. But when bad people come to hurt my family, I become whatever I need to become to stop them. Dr. Wright's widow, Anna, told Zexathara about her husband's final act. James wasn't a fighter. He saved lives, he didn't take them. But when those children died, he knew that saving more lives meant stopping the ones who killed them. He died doing what he always did, protecting the innocent. The most surprising interview was with a captured Ravek soldier. Zexathara expected him to be angry or defiant. Instead, he seemed broken and afraid. We fought many species, the Ravek said quietly. Korthak berserkers, Zephyrian hive minds, Altarian war machines. But humans are different. They don't fight like warriors. They fight like parents protecting their children. You can defeat warriors. You cannot defeat parents. As the rescue and rebuilding continued, Zexathara realized they needed to completely rewrite their understanding of human warfare. Everything they had thought they knew was wrong. Humans were not great fighters because they were strong or smart or well-trained. They were great fighters because they fought for something more important than winning. They fought for love. When Zexathara returned to their research ship, they found a message waiting for them. It was from the Galactic Council. Word of the battle had spread throughout known space. The Council wanted to know what had really happened on the human colony world. Zexathara spent 3 days writing their report. When they finished, they realized it was not just a battle report. It was a warning. The report concluded, Recommendation to all Galactic Council members. Do not threaten human civilians. Do not target human children. Do not assume human colonies are easy targets. Humans possess a form of warfare that transcends conventional military doctrine. When fighting to protect their loved ones, they become capable of defeating forces many times their size and strength. Secondary recommendation: immediate alliance negotiations with human governments. A species capable of this level of protective fury would make the most valuable allies in the galaxy. They would also make the most dangerous enemies. 6 months later, Zexathara published their book about galactic warfare. The section on humans was the longest chapter, filled with detailed analysis of protective instincts, emotional warfare, and the power of fighting for something greater than yourself. The book became required reading at military academies across the galaxy. The human chapter was titled, Love as a Weapon, Understanding Humanity's Greatest Strength. But for Zexathara, the most important part of the book was the dedication page. To the 53 children and 16 adults who died at Kepler Colony School, and to the humans who made sure they would be remembered. May the galaxy learn from their sacrifice that some prices are too high to pay, and some people are too dangerous to threaten. Years later, when other species considered attacking human settlements, they would remember the story of the Kepler colony. They would remember what happened when humans fought not for conquest but for love, and they would choose to fight someone else instead.